So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Galaxy S26 Ultra versus the iPhone 17 Pro Max 1 month later. As an owner of both of these, I do want to talk to you about my 1 month later experience with the S26 Ultra and how it compares to the 17 Pro Max. My thoughts now that the hype has died down. We're now into past the initial impressions, and now we could talk a little bit more about long-term. Well, it's not long-term, but like, you know, a little bit longer term than the very initial hype window. I got some more settled in thoughts now on these phones right here. So let's start with the build quality overall between both of these and kind of like the feel in the hand. And I'm not going to talk about just the general Galaxy's boxy. This is round. I get that. But the actual overall feel of the phones themselves, now that they've settled in, I kind of am just used to the iPhone 17 Pro Max at this point because it's been out longer. But I got to say, I do like the lightweight feel of the Galaxy S26 Ultra. It's felt pretty nice to hold because of that lighter weight. Also, because they went with aluminum, that's kind of made it a little bit lighter weight as well. And generally, it's been kind of a dream to use this Galaxy phone if you're looking for a top tier Android device. One of the things though with this build though is it does rock on the table. We talked about that before. I haven't found it to be too much of an issue, and some people did say that a case will fix that. That's actually not always the case, pun intended, because if it's a thinner case, it will still rock on the table. Sometimes you got your hands full and you're just typing something and this phone just rocks a little bit more. It's just a little small thing, but I do think about it a lot. So ergonomically, that annoys me a little bit. With the iPhone, it has a little bit of a weightier feel to it, a little bit heftier. That to me feels a little bit more premium, but really they're both aluminum phones, so I can't really say that it's actually more premium. But I do like how that camera plateau allows this phone to not really rock whatsoever on a table or whatever if you're doing like a one-handed task or anything like that. But the thing is that both of these phones are still really large, so they do tend to feel a little bit cumbersome, you know, if you're not used to a larger phone. But once you get used to it, they kind of just feel like little mini tablets in your pocket. They're very, very large devices. Now that we've settled in a bit, I got to talk a little bit more about the display comparison 1 month later. And one of the things I noticed is that the Galaxy seems brighter, like from the usage I can use from it. So if I go to display, I can use extra brightness mode, but it just kind of seems like more vibrant, vivid, like in your face bright. Like it just kind of feels like that day to day with this phone, especially if you turn on the vivid mode and you turn up the vivid sliders. Definitely kind of feels like that. Also, it kind of like these icons with One UI 8.5, they just feel kind of 3D. If you look closely at them, they kind of look like little stickers on the screen. They just pop right out at your face, these icons right here. One of the things about this is it does have a really high resolution, but right out of the box, the Galaxy S26 Ultra tends to give you more of a, let's go back here. It gives you more of a 1080 right out of the box. It'll default to this for better battery usage, but I always go ahead and turn on QHD Plus because that does allow for sharper resolution. Speaking a little bit about the privacy display, that display feature has been pretty awesome with this phone. And speaking on when I've used it in public quite a few times already, actually like about 2 or 3 times. When standing in lines, waiting for things, it's just been really a nice feature to use. Kind of gives you a little bit of peace of mind knowing people aren't looking over your shoulder or looking at what's on your screen. However, I think for power users who don't really whip their phone out too much in public, this feature is going to be rather pointless for you if you don't use anything personal out and about. You mostly use it at home and stuff like that. You know, those apps you don't want people to see. This might not be a big deal, but I think this could also be useful at things like concerts and, you know, sporting events or whatever, where like you're waiting for the event to start and you want to do some text messages. You want to check some things. Maybe you're going to get something at the concession stands. You need to check your bank to see if they charged you for it, whatever. And somebody's peeping over, you know, in the stadium seating, peeping over you. This has been quite the deal. So a month later, the display pretty awesome. However, you know, some people do notice pixel peepers specifically, or people who are really detailed when it comes to the eyes. They can really see everything. They're used to Samsung's older screens. You will notice that there's a little bit of a difference on the angles if you're that type of person, but I think majority of users won't notice it too much, but it does have a different pixel arrangement and some people don't really love that. A month later, I'm used to this phone already. One thing I get a question a lot about though with this panel is, Nick, is the panel giving you headaches? Is it giving you eye strain? And I will report that I do get a little bit sensitive to extended use on the screen, but I don't get anything like headaches or anything like that. Maybe a little bit of eye strain if I'm cranking it up too much. And I do notice the PWM is not quite as comfortable on the eye with this phone, so you'll have to try it out for yourself. But generally, it doesn't really bother me most of the time. That usually happens only if I'm using it heavy after already doing work on a computer screen already. But I will say that the iPhone screen is more comfortable to the eye. It definitely feels that way. If we go over here to settings and we scroll over to the accessibility modes, we scroll down to display and text size, scroll down some more, you'll see display pulse smoothing right there, or PWM feature. It's nice that they're bringing this here because Samsung isn't bringing really any of them. But I gotta say that the iPhone screen, just a really well balanced screen. You can see True Tone is on right now, making the screen look a little bit yellow. Your brightness, I feel like you can't crank it as high, but it does hit really high brightness when you are out in the sunlight, actually higher than that of the Samsung. And the sharpness is pretty on point. You don't really have to tweak anything. So right out of the box, it's a very sharp display, although it's not as sharp as the Samsung when you do turn on the QHD+. The dynamic island does make this display, after a month, I gotta say, make me miss the Galaxy a little bit. That punch hole display just feels like more screen space. So I do like the feature set of it, but I gotta say that, you know, the actual content displayed on both screens is kind of the same. It just kind of comes down to which overall, you know, shape of the phone do you like a little bit more, because you're getting a similar size screen and you're getting kind of like a similar amount of space to read content. One thing that is much better about Samsung phones in general, but the Galaxy S26 Ultras, I do really miss the split screen abilities, the pop view windows, everything you could do with this, the S Pen. It just feels so much more productive to use this phone day to day. However, when I'm not really needing that stuff, I don't really care too much for it. And then I kind of prefer the cozy, simple iPhone experience over here when I don't need that productivity. So that's kind of how I've been feeling after about a month with these phones when it comes to their overall display experience. Let's go ahead and talk about the daily speed and fluidity. Now, the Samsung to me has been a little bit more stable than the iPhone. The iPhone does have a couple more hiccups here and there. They're very rare, but Samsung just seems to be flying along faster. And I noticed that while they don't always release their software as fast as the iPhone, they make sure that it's pretty good when they do release it, because I haven't been getting really no app crashes, anything like that. You've been seeing in my speed test that the Samsung Galaxy has been beating the iPhone in pretty much most respects. It's been a really great experience, and that's been this way for the more recent Z Fold lines, the recent S25 series as well, even S24 Ultra. They really stepped it up over the past couple of years, and more than ever, a Galaxy phone is a nice thing to try now. If you haven't tried one before, it's pretty fun. So I do have to say, performance very stable. I do like that with the split screen modes though, that if you do enable one like that, you can go ahead and just kind of like bring out a pop view right there. But also, if you want to go ahead and save this app pair, you can just bring that over to the App Edge panel over here, and then it can go like that. You can also have multiple split screens going at the same time, which showcases the power of this phone. So right there, you'll see that split screen is there. But if I want to go ahead and split this one right here, we'll split view right here. We'll go to Instagram on this guy, and you'll see you can have multiple split screens running at the same time. So this showcases like the productivity. Now, this is not something new to this phone. It's just a One UI 8 feature, but I got to say, it's pretty fluid when doing that. So you play games and stuff like that. The thermals are strong with this big vapor chamber in here. It holds up pretty well. They also have a nice gaming mode on here, and it's been rather nice to play games on. Let's just put it that way. With the thin bezels, the large display over here, you have this gaming section over here. It kind of gives you a little bit of like a gaming phone feel with that over there. Most phones are giving you stuff like this, but yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, and it stays cool to the touch. That's one of the better things about playing games on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. But a month later, you know, with this compared to the iPhone was already tried and true, great performing. It's just simple, it works. I do think some of the games do load a little bit better. they do play a little bit better on the iPhone. It really just depends on which of these two that you care about, which games you care about. And you might want to look up those games you plan to play a lot and see which one is developed better for which platform. And that should be the one you go with, because both of them stay cool to the touch and both of them perform extremely well under gaming. So one of the things I will say though is that the iPhone's display, because of that dynamic island, does cut into the screen a little bit more. Not so much in this game, but in certain games it just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, especially if you're in a landscape game with the iPhone. But I definitely prefer playing games on the iPad for iOS type experiences. But the iPhone, one of the shocking, well, not shocking, but one of the great things about it is it stays really cool to the touch under gaming load. That's something that was a kind of a con on the 15 Pro Max and the older iPhones. They would just get really toasty when gaming. Although they did perform well, they did get a little bit warm. This one, not so much, so that's pretty nice. Also, iOS 26 is very fluid. It does look very nice daily, but it does seem to run a little bit slower compared to the Samsung. You can kind of just feel it when you're using it day to day. And also apps launch way slower feeling to me on the iPhone, but that to some people looks fluid. It looks more polished, and it kind of gives you that nice animation. So really you got to decide which you want. You want speed and productivity, or you want fluid and simple. That's kind of how I would pick between these two after about a month. Now moving on to the area of biometric reliability, I gotta state Face ID is the winner here for me, mostly because I do like its convenience aspect. You don't really need to put your finger anywhere, and that is pretty convenient because you don't really need to touch the screen to get into those authentications or into the phone. Like I said before in some of my previous videos, I do think that Apple could integrate a Touch ID within the side frame of this device. You can even see how it would look there on the camera control. It would probably look something like that. But they could probably integrate it up on the power button and still leave camera control there. That would be nice to have dual options there. And you see I almost dropped this phone. It can be a bit slippery with that aluminum chassis, but definitely, you know, the Face ID I enjoyed a bit more. However, the Face Unlock on the Samsung I enjoy for convenience as well, for speed, because it is pretty fast to unlock. With the Samsung device, you also have the in-display fingerprint sensor, and to me, it feels a little higher tech, you know, like having on the screen. I always thought that was a pretty high-tech feature, having a fingerprint within the screen. That's just cool, but at the same time, it's underneath the display, so nobody even knows it's there. You just unlock and you're into the device. So you could even open this on some awkward angles. So this is a really, really good one. I haven't found it to be too much of an issue, even with some slightly greasy fingers, but if they get a bit too greasy, it can miss. Also, if you don't hit it exactly right, like you got to be right on the fingerprint, or you don't hold it long enough, it will tell you in a message like hold that thing longer. That doesn't really occur too much on Face ID. You kind of just look at it, and either it gets you or it doesn't. But majority of the time, it gets you, even in the dark. A month later, when it comes to the cameras, the Galaxy has impressed me for two features on here. If we go over to video, the main feature that really has impressed me has been the horizon lock. So let's go over here to video. Let's get out of this log recording, and you'll see right here, we do have it's like horizontal lock actually, but it allows you to get this really good quality video, even when in motion, and not just super steady, but on some weird angles. So you can really get something like you've never seen before on this smartphone if you're in fast movement. Also, one of the nice things about this phone is they've added they've added LUTs to this phone. So if you go on log, you can go to LUTs and you can change between romance, thriller, coming of age, blockbuster standard, or just turn it off. But what's really cool is a lot of times when you're making cinematic grade video, you would have to go ahead and get into an editor to go ahead and do this. So I have this footage right on phone, and you can even put this in an editor on the phone and upload some cinematic looking video. That is pretty pro if you ask me. The actual results don't look substantially different to me than the previous Galaxy S25 Ultra, but they do have better processing on the motion. So if we go ahead and take a photo in motion, you might get a little bit less. Shutter speed is still kind of slow, and those farther zooms, you can still see some noise. It's not like the camera on the further zoom has gotten way better. It's still kind of the same type of zoom we've been seeing. Generally though, I feel like this camera upgrade was a safe one, not a substantial major change, but a good enough one. that anybody coming from a previous prior to the S25 Ultra is going to be pretty happy here. A month later though, now on the flip side, the iPhone has given us a really strong camera offering, and I really like camera control. I kind of got used to it, but mostly where I still prefer the iPhone is this front-facing camera. I thought it was awesome for them to bring this ultra-wide camera. I talked about that before they even brought this, so I'm happy it's here. I wish Samsung would adopt it, but they haven't adopted it yet. That's been great. But also, you know, the consistency of the camera, faster shutter speed, and putting on a clinic when it comes to social media uploads. They just look fantastic on the iPhone. So it's still strong there, but it's still annoying that I have to go into settings to get all of the settings. You can do a lot more than you used to be able to right from settings, or right from the camera itself. But generally, the iPhone to me is the better consumer. It's still the better consumer grade camera for people who just want to upload to social media. I do think it's still better there. It's also a little bit better to me in video quality for focus, but I think for people who want to fine tune and get precise with their photos and stuff, they might prefer Samsung. Also, if you like a softer look or you don't like over the top detail, you might like the Samsung because the way it processes images looks very clean. They have very clean images that don't like over sharpen. They have very clean images on here that don't like give you this ultra realistic like iPhone like. It's like what I'm saying is like sometimes on the face you'll have like I don't want to see all of my little divots in my face or my little pimples or whatever. Like this one is a cleaner image for stuff like that. Even like when you're taking an image of an object, if there's a lot of little specks, the iPhone tends to get all those little specks, and I don't want to see those specks. I want a clean image of the object I'm taking a picture of. So you got to look at the processing between both images and then decide which one you like for yourself. But I'd say a softer look, the Samsung, but you can still crank out and get some really sharpened looks as well. For the iPhone, it's got a very ultra realistic kind of look, but gives you a little bit contrasty and also very, I would say their tones tend to lean more warm, and they look pretty good in social media though. So when it comes to the battery life, the Samsung has been the stronger phone over, you know, the S25 Ultra, 5,000 milliamp hour. The issue though is that it still doesn't last as long to me as my iPhone 17 Pro Max, which really just lasts and lasts and lasts. This is like a 2-day phone right here. I charge it anyway just because I want to top it off, but you don't really have to. This thing can really go 2 days. The Samsung can as well if you are a non-heavy user, but I think a lot of S26 Ultra users are pretty heavy users. Would you agree or would you not? But yeah, the Samsung charges faster than ever before, even faster than the iPhone, but the Samsung still not quite as long lasting, especially in standby time. This one still falls a bit short, but it's better than before. It's not that far off though. It's like an hour and a half or so, but you still feel it. The iPhone tends to still last longer in my usage day to day. Some people's usage may differ though, so it's kind of really hard to say how your battery life would be, because your type of use might be amazing compared to the way I use my phone or the way somebody else uses their phone. But for the way I use my phone, the iPhone seems to be a bit longer lasting after this month of use. And we talked a bit about software, but when it comes to software, let's just conclude it by saying that you get a long 7 years software support over here on the left. You are going to get about 6 on the iPhone. They don't really promise any specific length, but we all know we're getting a long-term software support on the iPhone. The iPhone software is still, I think, a really strong and sticky ecosystem, especially with the now MacBook Neo out. The Apple Watch is having cheaper options, cheaper iPad options. There's a lot of ways to get your ecosystem built. You can also do that on Samsung devices as well. They got cheaper Galaxy Watches, cheaper tablets, but the whole like Galaxy Android phone, Galaxy tablet with the Android software on a tablet, and then you have Windows with a Galaxy theme on the Galaxy Book, and then Wear OS. Like, to me, all of the like things don't sync up quite as well as the iPhone. So for me, the ecosystem, the software, both of them really great gadgets that work well with those things, but the iPhone's still to me a stronger ecosystem. I'm not going to say stronger software because the software is probably more productive and definitely feature rich. The Samsung destroys my iPhone 17 Pro Max. But when it comes to the other gadgets playing with the S26 Ultra, this is one of the better ones out there. Let's not get it twisted. Great Galaxy Buds, great watches, tablets, computers. I still think the iPhone does that same kind of feel a little bit better. The watch, the phone, the tablet, the computer, it all feels like the same exact product in just different shapes and forms. With the Samsung, I feel like I'm using a Windows laptop and an Android phone and an Android-based tablet. They don't all feel exactly the same, and their software is not also synced up similar times. So that software can be looking a little bit older on your tablet versus the newer version on your Ultra. That fragmentation still makes this seem like the king of ecosystem on the right. You notice this whole video I didn't talk much about AI. The reason why is because AI to me is on both phones. Well, obviously it's on both phones, but it hasn't really been the dictating factor between these two phones, because most of the AI use I think is coming from chatbots, and also you can use these on-device AIs, but pretty much both of them have similar audio erasing type features. You can rewrite things and stuff of that sort, and you can use your chat bots on both of them. You do have Gemini, and I do think Samsung's is a lot less in beta style than Apple Intelligence, which I think is going to improve this year. But right now, Samsung does win in the area of AI. I wouldn't call it a gimmick. It's only gimmicky if you don't use it, but it's pretty powerful actually. The S Pen, also not gimmicky if you use it, but if you don't use it, it's just there. It's something you use it if it's there. If you don't need it, you don't need it. But at the end of the day, that's definitely not gimmicky. I actually see some people talking about in the comments recently how this is their first Ultra and the S Pen, they love it. So they don't even remember because they never had an Ultra with a Bluetooth S Pen, but that was even better. But that's not here no more. The final verdict I'm going to come to after a month of using these phones. Which phone has earned the top spot as my permanent, well, I'm not going to say permanent because I do actually use both, but which one wins out in this comparison? And I think right now the 17 Pro Max is winning out for me, and it's not because the phone is necessarily better or I'm more of a fan of this product over this product. The reason why is because I think that this phone feels more changed from the previous one than this one does from the previous S25 Ultra. I feel more upgrades here. How do I feel those? I feel them in the design changes with the two-tone look and the plateau, and the fact that the cameras went triple 48 megapixel, and the fact that they went up in battery life and got cooling, better cooling, and a cosmic orange, a vibrant color. This whole phone just feels very different from the previous iPhone. Even if it's still kind of similar, it feels different. The Galaxy, on the other hand, feels like an S25 Ultra Plus. Like it doesn't feel that much different. The changes here are not as substantial to me as the ones on the 17 Pro Max from the 16 Pro Max. I mean, we still have kind of like the same camera layout. We kind of have the same kind of screen on the front, but we do have privacy display. That's innovative. But at the same time, the S Pen is the same S Pen, really, same size battery. This also has over 5,000 milliamp on the iPhone. It just feels like basically like exactly like an S25 Ultra. So great phone. Let's not get it twisted. It's one of the best in the game, if not the best Android in the game. But I just think this year in this comparison, Apple's upgrade was a little bit more felt from the 16 Pro Max. Still, both of them are playing it safe. But when we talk about the upgrade year over year, I wish Samsung did slightly more with the Galaxy S26 Ultra. You might be saying, well, what do you mean slightly more? I mean all new sensors, maybe a bigger, ultra wider camera on the front. I mean a brighter screen. This has the same brightness. I mean, just improve the areas that the user would notice most. The battery specifically, a larger battery. So that's why I'm going here after a month. I'm going 17 Pro Max as the one that feels a little bit more upgraded, but both of them are phenomenal. And if you're bored of Apple, Samsung, you're going to really love this S26 Ultra. If you're tired of Android devices, you're going to love that 17 Pro Max. So you're not losing either way here in 2026. And I think it's going to get better with these colors. I think Apple's going to bring another fire color this year on the iPhone, and the S26 Ultra is just waiting for that. One area though that the S26 Ultra is still beating the iPhone is performance though. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing more speed tests as the year goes on, and I look forward to battling the S26 Ultra versus the iPhone 18 Pro Max. Let me know your thoughts on this one down below in the comment section of this video. If you liked it, found it enjoyable, informative, or just fun to watch, click the like button for me. And if you have either one of these phones and you want to share some of your detailed experiences or analysis, I'd love to hear that down below in the comments. We could chat about that. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.